It looks like an ordinary coin at first glance. A small, silver-toned quarter passing through countless hands in parking lots, vending machines, and cash registers. Most people don't even notice it. Some wouldn't even bother picking it up. But what if I told you that this exact coin, the 2000p Washington quarter dollar, carries within it a hidden chapter of American history, a story of design, ambition, and modern treasure hunting, and that in rare cases, it has shocked collectors by turning pocket change into hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Now imagine this. You're standing at a gas station counter. The cashier hands you change. A few coins drop into your palm. You almost ignore them until something about one quarter feels different. Slightly off. Slightly unusual. That small moment of curiosity could be the beginning of a story most people never experience. So what exactly is this coin? And why does it still fascinate collectors more than 2 decades after it was minted? To understand the 2000p Washington quarter, we have to go back before it ever existed, to the legacy it carries on its surface. The obverse of the coin features one of the most iconic portraits in American numismatics. George Washington. Not the myth, not the legend, but the man himself, frozen in time through a design originally created by John Flanagan in 1932. That year marked 200 years since Washington's birth, and the United States wanted to honor its first president with a circulating coin that would stand the test of time. What began as a commemorative tribute quickly became one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coin history. Fast forward to the year 2000. America was entering a new millennium. Technology was exploding, fears of Y2K had just faded, and the United States Mint was in the middle of one of its most ambitious coin programs ever created, the 50-state quarters program. This wasn't just a redesign. It was a revolution in everyday currency. For the first time in history, each U.S. state would be honored with its own unique reverse design on the quarter. Millions of Americans suddenly found themselves checking their change not out of habit, but out of curiosity. And the 2000p Washington quarter sits right in the middle of that excitement. Minted in Philadelphia, identified by the P mint mark, this coin was struck in massive numbers. We are talking hundreds of millions. In fact, it wasn't rare at all in the traditional sense. It was everywhere. In wallets, in jars, under couch cushions, and lost in car cup holders across America. But here is where the story takes a turn that most people never expect. Because rarity in the coin world is not always about how many were made. Sometimes it is about what went wrong during production. And sometimes those mistakes become the most valuable treasures of all. The 2000p Washington quarter is known among collectors for a handful of fascinating error types that occasionally slip out of the U.S. Mint. One of the most intriguing is the wrong planchet error. Imagine a quarter being struck not on its usual copper nickel-clad blank, but on a foreign or incorrect metal disc intended for another coin. The result? A quarter that looks slightly off in color, weight, or even thickness. To an untrained eye, it might seem like nothing. But to a collector, it can mean a dramatic spike in value. Then there are off-center strikes. These happen when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. The result is a design that appears shifted, sometimes dramatically, leaving part of the coin blank and part of it doubled into chaos. The more extreme the error, the more dramatic the value can become. There are also double die varieties, where the design elements appear slightly doubled due to misalignment in the die creation process. Washington's profile might show subtle doubling in the lettering or facial details, something that requires a trained eye or magnification to detect. And this is where the story becomes almost like a modern treasure hunt. Because unlike ancient gold coins buried in the earth, these treasures are still circulating today. They are hiding in plain sight. Think about that for a moment. A coin minted in the millions, designed to be ordinary, could still be sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket right now, carrying an error worth far more than 25 cents. But why does this coin matter culturally? The 2000p quarter represents a turning point in American coinage. Before the state quarters program, most people saw coins as purely functional. After it began, coins became miniature storytelling devices. Each state design told a story of identity, pride, and heritage. The year 2000 marked the expansion of that national narrative. States like Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Virginia were honored, each with intricate designs that reflected their unique histories. Suddenly, coins became collectibles for children, adults, and even people who had never cared about numismatics before. Coin folders sold out. Schools used quarters as educational tools. Families sorted through jars of change together at kitchen tables. And at the center of it all was the Washington quarter, quietly carrying the program forward. But here is where things get even more interesting. Despite its massive mintage and modern production, the 2000p quarter still attracts collectors because of one simple truth. Modern coins are still being discovered in error, and discoveries can still be made by ordinary people. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, modern coins invite participation. They whisper a question every time you receive change. What if this one is different? So what is a 2000p Washington quarter worth today? In normal condition, the answer is simple. It is worth face value, 25 cents. Nothing more. But in uncirculated condition, especially with high grades, it can reach a few dollars to collectors. And in the rare world of mint errors, things change dramatically. Depending on the type and severity of the error, some examples have sold for tens, hundreds, and in extreme cases, even higher amounts at auction. The key is not the coin itself, but what makes it different from the millions just like it. And that brings us to a deeper question. How many valuable coins have already passed through your hands without you ever realizing it? How many stories have you spent without noticing the hidden details? This is the emotional core of modern coin collecting. It is not just about value. It is about awareness. It is about seeing the extraordinary inside the ordinary. The 2000p Washington quarter is not a legendary rarity locked away in a vault. It is something more subtle, more powerful in a way. It is a reminder that history is still being made in your pocket every single day. And maybe that is why collectors love it. Not because it is rare, but because it might become rare in the right moment, in the right condition, under the right mistake. So the next time a quarter lands in your hand, don't rush to dismiss it. Turn it over. Look closely at Washington's profile. Check the lettering. Feel the weight. Notice the details. Because sometimes, treasure doesn't come from shipwrecks or buried chests. Sometimes it comes from a coin you almost didn't bother to look at. And that is the quiet mystery of the 2000p Washington quarter dollar. A coin that most people forget, but a few lucky eyes never overlook. Now the real question is this: how many are still out there waiting to be found? The coins in your pocket might seem ordinary. Most people spend them without a second thought. But what if one of those everyday quarters could be worth far more than 25 cents? What if a coin minted in 2001, a year many of us barely remember, was quietly hiding stories of history, craftsmanship, and collector fascination? Today, we're diving into the remarkable world of the 2001p Washington quarter, a coin that millions have handled, yet very few have truly understood. At first glance, the 2001p Washington quarter doesn't look special. It carries the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front, a design Americans have recognized for generations. But beneath its ordinary appearance lies a fascinating chapter in one of the most ambitious coin programs ever launched by the United States Mint. To understand this coin, we need to travel back to the late 1990s. America was preparing for a new century. Technology was transforming daily life. The internet was exploding in popularity, and the nation was looking for creative ways to celebrate its heritage. That's when the U.S. Mint introduced the groundbreaking 50-state quarters program. The idea was simple but brilliant. Instead of producing the same reverse design year after year, each state would receive its own commemorative quarter. Every few months, a new design would be released, turning ordinary pocket change into miniature history lessons. By 2001, the program was in full swing. Millions of Americans eagerly searched their change, hoping to find the latest state designs. Coin collecting suddenly became exciting again. Families, children, and even people who had never collected coins before were checking every quarter they received. The 2001p Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, represented by the small P mint mark. During that year, 5 different state quarter designs were released: New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Kentucky. Think about that for a moment. Every 2001 P quarter wasn't just money. It was part of a nationwide treasure hunt. The obverse featured George Washington, whose portrait had appeared on the quarter since 1932. The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan and remains one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. Washington's calm expression reflects strength, leadership, and stability, qualities that have made him a lasting symbol of the nation. But it was the reverse designs that captured everyone's imagination. New York's quarter celebrated the Statue of Liberty and the state's role as a gateway to America. North Carolina honored the Wright brothers and the first powered flight. Rhode Island featured a sailboat gliding across Narragansett Bay, highlighting the state's maritime heritage. Vermont showcased the state's famous landscape and maple syrup tradition. Kentucky celebrated Abraham Lincoln's birthplace and the state's rich history. Each design told a story. Each quarter represented a piece of America's identity. Now here's something surprising. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters. In fact, the combined mintage numbers for the various 2001 P state quarters reached extraordinary levels. Because so many were made, most examples remain common today. So why are collectors still interested in them? The answer lies in condition. Imagine 2 identical coins. One spent years bouncing through cash registers, vending machines, and pockets. The other was carefully preserved from the day it left the mint. Even though both coins were produced at the same time, their values can be dramatically different. Collectors pay close attention to grades. A heavily circulated 2001 P quarter is usually worth face value. But a coin with pristine surfaces, sharp details, and strong mint luster can command much higher prices. In top certified grades, some 2001 P state quarters have sold for surprisingly impressive amounts. The highest quality examples, graded by professional services, can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity within the grading population. That's where the excitement begins. Most people assume rare coins must be ancient treasures buried underground or hidden in pirate chests. But sometimes rarity isn't about age. It's about survival. Millions of quarters were struck in 2001. Yet only a tiny fraction survived in perfect condition. Those elite examples become the stars of the collector market. Then there are the errors. Coin errors are among the most fascinating mysteries in numismatics. During the minting process, machines operate at incredible speeds. Occasionally, something goes wrong. A coin may be struck off-center. It may receive a doubled image. Sometimes the metal itself contains unusual imperfections. These mistakes transform ordinary coins into collector favorites. Imagine receiving change at a grocery store and discovering a quarter with a dramatic mint error. To most people, it might seem damaged. To a knowledgeable collector, it could be a hidden treasure. Some error quarters from the state quarters program have attracted significant attention and strong prices. While genuine valuable errors are uncommon, they continue to fuel the dream that an extraordinary discovery might still be hiding in circulation. But the story of the 2001 P Washington quarter isn't only about money. It's also about culture. Before the state quarters program, coin collecting was often viewed as a niche hobby. Then something remarkable happened. Millions of Americans became collectors almost overnight. Children filled maps with quarters from different states. Grandparents shared stories about history and geography. Families searched couch cushions and piggy banks for missing designs. The program transformed everyday change into a national educational project. For many collectors today, the 2001 P quarter carries powerful memories. It reminds them of childhood collections, family road trips, and the excitement of finding a new state design for the first time. That emotional connection gives the coin significance beyond its market value. And there's another fascinating question. How many valuable 2001 P quarters remain undiscovered? Think about the countless jars of coins sitting on shelves. Think about forgotten collections tucked away in closets. Think about all the quarters passing through cash registers every single day. Could a high-grade example still be waiting to be found? Could a rare error be hiding among ordinary change? These possibilities keep collectors searching. The beauty of coin collecting is that the hunt never truly ends. Unlike many hobbies that require expensive equipment or exclusive access, coin collecting begins with something almost everyone already possesses: pocket change. Every quarter has a story. Every design represents a moment in history. Every coin has traveled through countless hands, witnessing countless transactions and journeys. The 2001 Washington quarter serves as a perfect example. It started life as a simple 25-cent piece. Yet it became part of a historic program that reshaped American coin collecting, educated millions about the states, and inspired a generation of treasure hunters. More than 2 decades later, people are still examining these coins, searching for pristine examples, rare errors, and hidden value. That's the magic of numismatics. A small piece of metal can connect us to history, culture, economics, and personal memories all at once. So the next time you receive a quarter in change, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine the design. You never know what story might be hiding in plain sight. The 2001 Washington quarter may not be the rarest coin ever made. It may not be made of gold or silver, but it represents something equally powerful: the idea that history can exist in the most ordinary places. And perhaps that's the greatest treasure of all. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever found an unusual quarter, a coin error, or a valuable coin in your pocket change? Let us know in the comments below. Your discovery could inspire fellow collectors around the world. And if you enjoy uncovering hidden treasures, fascinating coin stories, and surprising values hiding in everyday money, make sure to subscribe and join us for more incredible journeys into the world of rare and collectible coins, because your next great treasure might already be sitting in your pocket. In 2011, something unusual was happening in American pockets, wallets, and vending machines. People were spending it without a second thought. It looked like every other quarter: small, silver-toned, familiar. But hidden in plain sight was a coin that carried the weight of American history, national pride, and a legacy that stretches back nearly a century. And yet, most people had no idea what they were holding. What if I told you that a simple 2011 Washington quarter could open a window into America's greatest landscapes, its most powerful historical battles, and a coin program so ambitious it reshaped modern U.S. currency collecting? But here's the real question: why does a coin like this exist in such massive numbers? And why do some collectors still search for it like it's something special? To understand that, we have to go back long before 2011, back to the origins of the Washington quarter itself. In 1932, the United States was preparing to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. A competition was held to design a new quarter, and the winning portrait became one of the most iconic images in American coinage history. Originally intended as a one-year commemorative issue, the Washington quarter became so popular that it never left circulation. For decades, it remained largely unchanged, becoming one of the most recognizable coins in the world. But by the early 21st century, something needed to change. America wanted its coinage to tell more stories. Not just portraits, but places. Not just presidents, but the land itself. And so, in 2010, the United States Mint launched one of the most ambitious coin programs in modern history: the America the Beautiful Quarters program. This program transformed the quarter into a traveling storyteller. Each coin would now honor a different national park, forest, monument, or historic site from every U.S. state and territory. And in 2011, the journey continued. That brings us directly to the 2011 Washington quarter. Minted in Denver, identified by the small D mint mark, this coin was part of a nationwide release that included multiple breathtaking designs. In 2011 alone, the series featured places like Gettysburg National Military Park, Glacier National Park, Olympic National Park, Vicksburg National Military Park, and Chickasaw National Recreation Area. Each design was more than decoration. It was a tribute carved in metal. Think about that for a moment. A single quarter passing through your hands could represent soldiers standing at Gettysburg, glaciers carving through ancient mountains, or rivers flowing through protected American wilderness. And yet, despite this powerful symbolism, the 2011 D quarter itself is extremely common in circulation. Millions upon millions were struck at the Denver Mint, designed for everyday use. It was never intended to be rare. It was meant to move, to circulate, to be spent without hesitation. So why do collectors still care? Because in the world of coins, common doesn't always mean worthless. The 2011 D Washington quarter belongs to the modern-clad era, meaning it is made from layers of copper and nickel rather than precious metals like silver. It has no inherent bullion value. In normal condition, it is worth exactly 25 cents. But here is where the story gets interesting. Within massive modern mintages, small mysteries sometimes appear. Coins with errors. Coins with unusual strikes. Coins that slipped through quality control and entered circulation with tiny imperfections that make them suddenly desirable. For example, a double die error, where the design appears slightly duplicated due to a misalignment during striking. Or off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly positioned under the press. Or even coins with missing clad layers, exposing the copper core underneath. These are the anomalies that turn an ordinary quarter into something collectors pay attention to. And in 2011, across all Denver and Philadelphia releases, collectors were actively searching for such errors, hoping to discover something rare hidden inside everyday change. But even without errors, the 2011 D quarter carries a deeper kind of value. It represents the final years of a massive transition in American coinage. For decades, coins were mostly static in design. Then suddenly, starting in 1999 with state quarters and continuing into the America the Beautiful series, every coin became a miniature history lesson. The 2011 D quarter is part of that evolution. It is a reminder that even everyday money can become a storytelling canvas. Now imagine this for a moment. A quarter minted in Denver travels across the United States. It passes through countless hands, gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, tip jars. It might sit in a drawer for years. It might be forgotten in a couch cushion. It might even end up in a coin jar without a second thought. And yet, at its core, it carries the identity of American geography and history. That is what makes it fascinating. Not its rarity, but its reach. Collectors often describe coins like this as future history artifacts. Because while today they seem ordinary, decades from now they will represent a specific moment in U.S. minting history. But here's where many people get surprised. Despite all this historical weight, the 2011 D Washington quarter is not a high-value coin in standard condition. Even uncirculated examples typically sell for only a small premium above face value, depending on grade and demand. So if you're holding one right now, you are not holding a hidden fortune. But you are holding a piece of a much larger story. And that's where coin collecting becomes emotional rather than financial. Because not every treasure is measured in dollars. Some are measured in connection. Connection to history. Connection to place. Connection to the idea that even the smallest object in your hand might represent something far bigger than you realize. Still, the question remains, could there be a rare version of the 2011 D quarter sitting unnoticed somewhere today? The answer is yes in theory. Coin collectors and metal detectorists continue to find unexpected errors even in modern coins. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins every year, and while quality control is strict, it is not perfect. That leaves a small window for mistakes. And mistakes create opportunity. That is why even coins like this are still examined closely under magnification, still traded, still studied. Because in numismatics, the thrill is not just in what is known, but in what might be waiting to be discovered. So the next time you receive a quarter in change, take a closer look. Not because it will change your life financially, but because it might connect you to a deeper story you never expected. A story of presidents and national parks, of minting presses in Denver, of design choices that turned currency into storytelling, and of ordinary people holding pieces of history without even realizing it. The 2011 D Washington quarter may not be rare, but it is part of something rare, a living timeline of American heritage, still moving through the world today. And maybe that is the real treasure. Not what it is worth, but what it represents. So I'll leave you with this thought. How many other ordinary coins in your pocket are quietly carrying extraordinary stories, just waiting for someone to notice? What if I told you that a coin you might have seen in everyday change, something that looks completely ordinary at first glance, could actually be part of a modern mystery that collectors quietly argue about to this day? A coin so recent that most people assume it has no story yet, and yet behind it lies a mix of history, scarcity, and unexpected collector obsession. We're talking about the 2013 Washington quarter dollar. And before you think, it's just a quarter, stay with me, because this is exactly how the most valuable discoveries always begin, with something everyone else ignores. In 2013, the United States Mint in Philadelphia struck Washington quarters as part of the long-running America the Beautiful Quarters program. On the surface, these coins were designed for everyday circulation. Nothing flashy, nothing rare, just another chapter in modern U.S. coinage. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because 2013 wasn't just another year for the Washington quarter. It was a moment when production patterns shifted, collector interest quietly surged, and certain mintages became surprisingly low compared to expectations. And when numbers drop, even slightly in modern coinage, something interesting always happens. People start paying attention. Now imagine a massive mint facility in Philadelphia, striking coins at high speed, each quarter passing through machines designed for efficiency, not sentiment. Most of these coins were immediately shipped out into circulation, disappearing into pockets, vending machines, and cash registers across America. But a small fraction, a much smaller fraction than most people realize, entered circulation in lower than expected quantities depending on the design variety and release distribution that year. And that is where the whispers begin. Collectors later started noticing something unusual. While 2013 quarters exist in circulation, certain Philadelphia issues from that year seemed less common in high-grade condition. Not rare in the traditional sense like a 19th century silver coin, but scarce in the modern survivability sense. A subtle but important distinction that most casual collectors overlook. Because here's the truth most people don't realize about modern coins. Rarity isn't always about how many were made. It's about how many survived untouched. So what exactly is the 2013 Washington quarter? It belongs to the America the Beautiful series, which ran from 2010 to 2021. This program honored national parks and historic sites across the United States, turning everyday quarters into miniature historical tributes. In 2013, the series featured designs such as Fort McHenry, Perry's Victory, Great Basin, White Mountain, and Mount Rushmore. Each design carried its own artistic identity, but all shared one common feature. They were struck at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, with Philadelphia coins marked by the P mint mark. At first glance, these coins were not intended to be rare. They were meant for mass circulation, continuing the tradition of making national history accessible in pocket change. But something subtle changed in the collector world around this time. Modern coin collecting was evolving rapidly. More people were saving rolls directly from banks. More collectors were grading coins. And more attention was being paid to mint state preservation than ever before. So even though millions of quarters were struck, the number of pristine, uncirculated examples began to feel surprisingly limited. And this is where the fascination with the 2013 quarter begins to grow. Some collector reports and mintage discussions suggest that certain 2013 Philadelphia issues appeared in relatively lower distribution compared to surrounding years, with figures sometimes cited in collector circles as being in the lower million range for specific design releases. While exact numbers vary depending on the specific design and accounting method, what matters most is the perception that these coins did not flood the market in the same overwhelming way as earlier modern issues. And in the world of coin collecting, perception often becomes reality. Because when collectors believe something is scarcer, demand begins to build. And when demand builds, value starts to shift. But is the 2013 Washington quarter actually valuable? Here's where the story becomes even more interesting. In circulated condition, These coins are still worth face value. You could find one in your pocket right now and spend it without hesitation. But in uncirculated, high-grade condition, especially those that were preserved carefully from original bank rolls, the value begins to climb modestly among enthusiasts. Not life-changing money, not a jackpot, but something more subtle, something collectors appreciate deeply: condition rarity. And condition rarity is one of the most powerful forces in modern numismatics. Think about it. How many people actually save brand new quarters from circulation without scratches, without wear, without fingerprints, without the passage of time itself leaving its mark? Very few. So when a 2013 Washington quarter appears in perfect condition, it tells a different story. It's no longer just currency. It becomes a preserved artifact of early 21st century America. A coin that has somehow escaped the world's hands. And that is where emotional value enters the equation. Collectors don't just see metal. They see time. They see history frozen in a small, round object that once passed through millions of anonymous transactions. There is also another layer to this coin that adds intrigue: the Washington portrait itself. George Washington has appeared on the quarter since 1932, originally introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of his birth. Over decades, his image has become one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage history. But in the 2013 America the Beautiful series, Washington's portrait serves as a constant anchor while the reverse designs change dramatically, telling stories of national parks and historic landmarks. It creates a powerful contrast. One face of permanence, one face of changing American identity. And that contrast is part of why collectors continue to be drawn to the series. But here's the question that really matters. Could a coin like this ever become significantly valuable in the future? The answer depends on something most people underestimate: survival rate over time. As decades pass, most modern coins disappear from pristine condition. They get spent, scratched, damaged, or melted down. If collector interest in the America the Beautiful series continues to grow, then early year issues like 2013 Philadelphia Strikes could gradually gain more attention, especially in top grades certified by grading services. We've seen this pattern before. Coins that once seemed common in the 1970s and 1980s are now carefully hunted in gem condition. Not because they were rare when made, but because time quietly erased most of them. And time is always the hidden force in coin collecting. So the next time you come across a 2013 Washington quarter, don't dismiss it too quickly. Look closer. Check its condition. Think about where it's been. Because even modern coins carry stories that most people never notice. And sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin in your hand is not ordinary at all. It's a survivor, a small piece of history that managed to escape the noise of everyday life. And that leads to one final question. How many other ordinary coins in your pocket right now are quietly waiting to be rediscovered? A coin so ordinary that millions of people have held it without a second thought. Yet in the right condition, with the right strike, or a tiny hidden flaw, it can suddenly become something collectors chase across the world.
À simple 2014 des Washington quartet $coin.
Nothing flashy, nothing ancient. And yet, its story stretches back nearly a century of American history, presidential legacy, minting secrets, and the quiet thrill of modern treasure hunting that still plays out in everyday pocket change. Now imagine this. You're at a gas station, you get your change, and a single quarter lands in your hand. You almost don't look at it. But what if that coin is not just 25 cents? What if it's a small piece of a long-running American legacy that started with the first Washington quarter back in 1932, created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the nation's first president, a man whose image has now become one of the most recognized faces in all of numismatics. That legacy continued for decades, evolving through designs, compositions, and eras. And by 2014, the Washington quarter was no longer just a single design. It was part of the America the Beautiful series, a modern chapter in U.S. coinage that turned everyday currency into miniature historical monuments. The 2014 Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most important coin production facilities in the United States. The D Mint mark might look small, almost insignificant, but it represents something massive. A controlled, industrial heartbeat of American currency, where billions of coins have been produced for circulation across the country. But here's where things get interesting. The 2014 quarters weren't just one coin. They were part of a rotating series honoring national parks and historic sites. Each design captured a different piece of America's identity. From vast landscapes carved by nature to places shaped by human history, every coin told a silent story in metal. So when you hold a 2014 D quarter, you're not just holding currency. You're holding a snapshot of a specific place in American heritage, frozen in time, reduced to a 24.3mm canvas. Now ask yourself, how many people actually notice that? Most don't. And that's exactly where the mystery of modern coin collecting begins. The 2014 D Washington quarters were struck in copper-nickel-clad composition, meaning they are made with a copper core layered with nickel-coated outer surfaces. This became standard after 1965, when the United States moved away from silver in circulating quarters. To the naked eye, it looks simple, but under the surface, it is a carefully engineered piece of mass production designed for durability, circulation, and consistency. And yet, even in mass production, perfection is never guaranteed. Some coins leave the mint with tiny mistakes, double dies, slight misalignments, weak strikes, or die cracks. These imperfections are not always noticeable at first glance, but in the world of collectors, they can turn an ordinary quarter into something far more intriguing. Suddenly, a coin worth 25 cents becomes something people are willing to search for, trade for, and sometimes even pay hundreds of dollars for. This is where the 2014 D Washington quarter enters the world of modern treasure hunting. Because unlike ancient coins buried in the ground or rare gold pieces locked in museum vaults, this coin could still be in circulation right now. Could be in your wallet, in a parking lot change machine, in a jar sitting on someone's kitchen counter. And that possibility is what keeps collectors scanning every coin they touch. But why does a modern coin like this attract so much attention? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and human psychology. Most 2014 D quarters are extremely common. They were minted in large numbers and distributed widely across the United States. But only a small fraction survive in pristine, uncirculated condition. Even fewer exhibit mint errors or unusual variations. And in coin collecting, scarcity is everything. A coin doesn't have to be ancient to be valuable. It just has to be rare in the right way. Collectors often look for high-grade examples, coins graded MS65, MS66, or higher by professional grading services. At these levels, even tiny imperfections under magnification matter. A slight mark, a faint scratch, or a weak strike can determine whether a coin is ordinary or exceptional. And then there's something even more exciting: error coins. Some 2014 D quarters have been reported with minor striking anomalies, off-center strikes, die chips, or unusual surface characteristics caused during the high-speed minting process. While most of these errors are subtle, they are exactly the kind of quirks that fuel collector excitement. Because every error tells a story of a moment when the machinery of perfection slipped, even for a fraction of a second. Think about that for a moment: millions of coins produced, each expected to be identical, and yet each one carries a small chance of being unique. That's the hidden magic of modern coinage. But beyond rarity and errors, there's also cultural significance. The Washington quarter has survived through wars, economic shifts, technological revolutions, and changing national identity. It has remained a constant in American pockets for generations. And the 2014 edition represents a modern interpretation of that legacy, blending history with nature and currency with storytelling. So when collectors study a 2014 D quarter, they aren't just looking at metal. They are looking at continuity, the tradition, at the quiet evolution of a nation expressed through small, circular pieces of art. Now here's a question that makes collectors pause. How many of these coins are still out there, completely unnoticed, sitting in circulation, waiting for the right eyes to recognize them? The truth is, no one really knows, and that uncertainty is what keeps the hunt alive. In terms of value, most circulated 2014 D quarters remain at face value, 25 cents. Simple. But in uncirculated condition, especially with high grading, they can reach several dollars or more depending on demand. Error varieties, if significant and authenticated, can climb higher depending on the uniqueness and visual appeal of the mistake. But perhaps the real value is not always measured in money. It's measured in discovery. Because the moment you realize that something so ordinary might carry hidden significance, you begin to see the world differently. Every coin becomes a question. Every pocket change becomes a possibility. And that is exactly why coins like the 2014 Washington quarter continue to fascinate collectors around the world. Not because they are rare in the traditional sense, but because they live in the space between the ordinary and the overlooked. So the next time a quarter lands in your hand, take a closer look. Turn it under the light. Notice the details, the mint mark, the texture, the design that most people never truly see. Because somewhere out there, in everyday circulation, there might be a coin that looks just like a 2014 Washington quarter, but tells a very different story. And the only question left is, will you be the one who notices it first?